a lot of times you're in your mind so much, and when you're in your mind, you can't get in your body.
Exactly.
And if you can't connect with your body, how can your partner connect with your body?
Exactly.
And so that's
Exactly.
when one of the enlightenments that I've gotten, just trying to be more present.
And that's hard. That's hard.
Very
I think for
hard.
anyone to practice that, we call it relational mind, not mindfulness.
I got you.
When you're in a relationship and you're trying to be present right there
Yeah,
with your partner.
right. And it's like I liken it to dancing.
Hmm.
You can learn the steps of a dance.
Yes.
But if you're just in your mind, you're like 1, 2, 3, go, 1, 2, 3, go. It's gonna look like 1, 2, 3, go.
Hmm.
But when you get into your body, it's a ebb and flow. And that for me, that's what sexuality and the experience with a partner in the bedroom should be. It should be this
Exactly.
ebb and flow,
It
back
should
and forth.
be. And
Yeah.
and that's why people come to sex therapists,
Yes.
because they've realized after being in a relationship for so many years, it becomes very mechanical.
Yeah.
Oh, we have sex right after the kids go to sleep. Well, spice it up.
Yeah.
If you're really, really busy and you have a hectic schedule sex, which I tell people all the time. I know it sounds boring, but when you're really busy, you have to make it priority. You have to
Yeah.
make intimacy, foreplay, sex a priority.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
you also want to learn to be spontaneous.
Gotcha.
So you want to learn to switch it up.
Play some roles.
Yeah, and exactly. Role playing is great.
Yeah. meet me at the gym. I'm
Right.
gonna come stretch you out.
Right. But you know what? That adds to it. And people, they think it's so silly, but then when they do it, they're like, oh, you were right. Like,
Yeah.
I'm having fun, because if you're with somebody, if you're married to somebody and you're with them for 20, 30 years, like anything in a relationship, it's going to start to get dull. It's
Yeah.
going to start to feel like a routine. And what do we hate as human beings?
Hate
We
routine.
like a routine, but we don't like a routine, right?
We
Especially when
don't
it comes
like
to
it. We
sex.
definitely don't like it in our relationships.
Exactly, because then, oh, he's not fun anymore. She's not fun anymore. And then that's when you get into cheating and side chicks
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
poly relationships and all type of things.
Gotcha, gotcha. So how do we get out of our minds and get into our bodies so we can be in that flow and not only fully experience sex from our position, but also get our partners to experience us as well to evolve a deeper connection?
So, if we're going to start with the mind first, we want to think about what's going on with us, right? And so, for a lot of women and men, for what I've seen, is stress and depression and anxiety is a huge thing right now.
Gotcha.
Especially during the pandemic, everyone was dealing with depression. But what studies actually showed, that people that were living together at the time and were still um, being active with their sex lives
Yeah.
had significantly lower percentage of depression than
Gotcha.
everybody else in the US.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
so I tell people, start with your mind first. Do check-ins with yourself.
Yeah.
Then do check-ins with your partner. See where they are at mentally.
Gotcha.
See how you all can make each other's lives easily. Babe, if I can take care of the kids or I can do the dishes, why not do that for your partner? So that's one less thing off of their checklist that they have to do.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And then you want to check in with your body. I have so many clients now that I'm seeing in their 30s, early 30s,
Yeah.
and early 40s that are dealing with erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
And diet is everything. And you've talked about this on your show before. You've even broken it down to vitamins and fruits and things that people should
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
But people, for some reason, they're like, oh, that's not fast and it's not easy.
Right.
I'd rather just go to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or something and grab something really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, that's a part of what's affecting your body.
Absolutely.
Not knowing what type of drugs you're using. I'm not going to get into if marijuana is good or bad, but what I will say is, do you know the source of where you're getting it from,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
And so even your alcohol, tequila is actually good for you. But then when you start mixing tequila with Sprite, with all the sugars, refined sugars and everything like that, then you're going to start to have issues in the bedroom.
Gotcha.
So that's why I tell people, connect all three, and then you'll realize, like, okay, what am I doing wrong here?
Yeah.
Where's the dots not connecting at?
Yeah. And so how can we begin to demystify
Mm.
and remove the demonization of sex? And the reason why I'm asking that is because we've always been taught that it's taboo.
Right. Everybody's having it.
Yeah, don't get caught doing it.
Right.
Don't make too much noise.
Mm-hmm.
People are afraid to be naked, and that's one thing that I sleep naked. I've been sleeping naked for like the last
That's
8 years.
That's healthy for you.
And a lot of people are uncomfortable with their bodies, so they
Mhm.
can't even be naked with themselves. So, what can we do to start to demystify and remove the demonization of sexuality so that we can have a full experience with the people we love?
So, one of the things I would say is you're going to have to start where your thoughts, your core values, and thoughts on sexuality come from, right?
Got you.
So, like in my family, I come from a very religious family, very mixed in religion. A lot of, we have Muslim, we have Buddhist, we have Jewish, Christianity, but I grew up, between Islam and Christianity.
Got
And
you.
so I grew up saying, oh, you should be a virgin until you get married.
Yeah.
Which is great. It sounds good, right? But does that typically happen?
Yeah.
No, with a lot of people, it doesn't
No.
happen. So then when you do start having experiences and sexual encounters, you feel shameful about it.
Yeah.
And so your self esteem gets kind of low because then you feel like, okay, well, I'm not pleasing him in the bedroom. I'm just standing there or laying down. And even for men, I've heard men, say that um they felt some kind of way after they would have certain sexual experiences because they felt dirty. They felt
Yeah.
like, oh, as a man, I should feel empowered, but I don't because this is what I was taught,
Okay.
especially if you
Got
grew
you.
up in the church and things like that.
Yeah.
So, how you dismantle that is one, you have to look up your upbringing, right? But you have to decide for yourself, what are your own core values?
Right.
What do you want for yourself? How do you see your life being as far as your sexual appetite?
Right.
And so, for a lot of us, who does not want to have a fulfilling sex life?
Right.
Everybody wants that, right?
Even mom and daddy and
Even
grandmama.
that's how we got here.
Right.
We wouldn't be here if our parents weren't doing what they were doing.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I tell people, it's a mental block. And how you shut down that mental block is you have to work through it
Yeah.
by deciding for yourself what your core values are and then saying, you know what, I want to have a fulfilling sex life. What does that look like to me?
Exactly.
Right? How do I put my sexual health first? How do I put my mental health first? How do I have a fulfilling sex life? Well, I have to break down those barriers of what I was once taught.
Got you. Got you. Got you. And so, as a psychiatrist, what inspired you to say, "All right, I want to take this little curve here and focus a little bit on sexology and help my patients navigate this, space."
You're the first person to ask me that question. I've actually was a sex therapist first. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah,
Ah,
I got my master's in human sexuality when I was like 23, 24.
got you.
Had no clue about anything in
Right.
life, okay? I didn't have no real experiences. Let me just start with that. But I was just interested because I felt in that space, it wasn't a lot of Black women.
Got you.
All the individuals that I was studying under, all the professionals, I've done work with Gatman Institute. I've done work with sexual medicine. I've done so much research. And I realized, I said, wait a second, there's not people that look like me in this space.
Right.
So who's providing them with this knowledge?
Yeah.
I want to provide them with the knowledge.
Right.
And I knew that I was really interested in tying in mental health and sexual health.
Yep.
And I was really interested in properly teaching the youth about sexual health. Because as you know, here in Georgia, there's no really sexual health programs anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm a little older. So when I was in elementary and middle school, we had sexual health still.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty much non-existent depending on where you live. And so that's something
Which
that
is odd because they're teaching kids about gender roles and gender
right.
identity, but
Exactly.
there's no sexual education.
Exactly. Which is crazy to
This
me.
is crazy.
It is. It is absolutely crazy.
Got you. All right. Question. Now, asking for a friend. What are some of the things that come up typically in terms of issues in partner relationships, both from the woman's standpoint and the man's standpoint? Some
Ooh,
common
that's a good
themes.
question. So, women and men, we want two different things in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
The number one thing I hear from the men, single men and married men, is typically that they're not getting enough sex.
Okay.
From the women, they're not getting any orgasms and they're not getting intimacy and foreplay.
Okay.
And that comes, I think, a lot from a lack of understanding. Men not knowing women's bodies, women not knowing men's bodies. But I will say women are a little bit better at anatomy than some of the men that I've met.
And
that
I will
counsel.
say that our anatomy is much more simpler.
It is.
So
It is.
I
It
think
is.
it's
I'll
much more
give you
simpler.
that.
But that's also why it's so important for men to understand how complicated a woman's anatomy is. So it requires much work. And the work doesn't begin physical work. The work begins before that with
Exactly.
intimacy. And I always believe that Men are desiring sex from a physical standpoint, and
Mhm.
women greatest desire is intimacy.
Absolutely.
And that feeds into her being able to enjoy sex.
Exactly. And when you understand what we talk about, excuse me, in our field is like pleasure mapping, right? Knowing certain points on your partner's body.
Man, I wish we had a diagram
I
of
would, you know what? I should have brought one. I am so sorry, y'all. But I feel like that's really important because at the end of the day, you cannot please your partner if you don't know what your partner likes.
Gotcha.
And I see in a lot of relationships, it's about me, 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 me.
Yeah.
And you should put yourself first. But at the end of the day, if this is a person that you see longevity with,
Yeah.
then you have to learn their body as well. And I think sometimes pride gets in the way for women and men.
Yeah.
A lot of men be like, oh, I know I please her. And she over there looking like,
Yeah. I think a lot of women are
"Ah."
stroking men's ego and don't know how to communicate.
And that's why I tell them don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And there's a time and a place for everything, right? Like
Absolutely.
use a little decorum here.
Yeah.
So never do it in the bedroom. Always do it if you're out at an activity, not around people. Of course, you don't want to do it with your friends,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you want to do it when you both just have a moment of you're just kind of free flowing, you're calm, nothing crazy has happened, right? You want to wait to the right moment.
Right.
Because this is a very sensitive topic for a
It
lot of
is.
people. And a lot of people have traumas that they haven't gotten therapy for and they haven't worked through, right?
Yeah.
And all of that can be brought up. And so I tell, men and women, I say, bring it up. Tell them, hey, listen, I love what we're doing. I love our connection. I love our sex. But could we try this?
Yeah.
Could we try, you being blindfolded? Let's go to the sex store
Yeah.
together. Let's exchange checklists on what we like to do.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that, that's really important to have that conversation.